some people might suggest, of course, the king of smooth. And according to Jack himself, he turned down the opportunity to marry this Hollywood legend. But why? As ever, let me explain. Morning, good to see you. Thank you so much for taking the time out to join me today. As ever, sometimes there are a little bit of sad news, but it's always nice to look back, isn't it, on the people that have really shaped our life, on the entertainment, map. We've all enjoyed, of course, wonderful performances from the brilliant and a good friend of mine, none other than the now late singer, Jack Jones. I've met Jack on many occasions, and let me be honest with you, he wasn't the easiest person to interview. But what I learned over time was, in fact, he didn't feel comfortable being interviewed. He was, the sort of person that you give them a mic, the orchestra, and they can superbly entertain you. He really lost himself in the lyrics of the songs. He wasn't necessarily about himself, which was a rare thing when you think. Married a number of times though, very good looking guy, and very much sought after by the Hollywood elite, as he told me during our many chats. He was one of those people that had literally worked with everybody, rubbed shoulders with presidents, kings, queens, you name it. He was just revered. Many people, of course, would say, well, particularly over here in the United Kingdom, he sort of fell out of favour, one might suggest, towards the end of the 70s, simply because the easy crooning style had been replaced by a lot more brash music, as it were. He could have come back, he did have a lot of opportunities, but he wanted to stick to a style that he knew very well. What was interesting with Jack, really, was his backstory, because his father, Alan Jones, of Donkey Serenade fame, had already become a big star over here, all thanks to that particular song, and more importantly, wonderful summer seasons at, say, the Opera House in Blackpool, and even appearing at the Dewsbury Empire. Yes, everybody's been everywhere to make a living in the end, haven't they? That's the thing. Now, what I loved about Jack's story, as I say, was he was just wonderful to sit and chat to. He literally had a story about everybody. And what was fascinating was he very famously appeared on the Judy Garland series, and it was a huge success for him. But as he pointed out, Judy was as incredibly talented as you would imagine, but also very, very insecure behind the scenes. Now, according to Jack, she was, I love this phrase, don't you? Between husbands, right? You love that phrase. Are you between husbands? Yes, well, you look the sort, fascinating line that, isn't it? Between husbands. And apparently she became slightly attached to Jack and basically said, how about if we got married? And he realized that Judy wasn't really interested in, the marriage in the traditional sense. She just wanted somebody to look after her. She felt CBS weren't treating her very well, and she liked the way that he stood up to people. That, according to him, was his style, He didn't suffer fools gladly. He also told me about a missed opportunity that he did regret, because in the early 60s he got the opportunity to, the offer to appear alongside Marilyn Monroe in the movie Let's Make Love. And this was at 20th Century Fox, but it was just kind of a cameo thing. There were a lot of cameos in that show, Wilfred Hyde White, Bing Crosby, that sort of stuff. And he thought, no, I don't want to get lost in that. He said his ego was too big. He should have snapped up the opportunity, but he decided not to. Jack said this was part of the problem all along his career. But of course, he was a big cheese back in the day, all thanks to the mega hit Wives and Lovers. And I don't know about you, if you haven't listened to that song in a while, listen to the lyrics and think, could you get away with that today? You'd be shot down in flames, even though it's a wonderful Hal David and Burt Bacharach song. Now, Jack apparently got asked if he wouldn't mind getting involved with the Kennedys and, of course, their plan to become the President of the United States. And he wasn't against it, he was a big fan, but he decided against it simply because of his hero, Frank Sinatra. He said he was the boss, he didn't want to stand on any toes or anything like that. And Frank had already got involved and, of course, done the track High Hopes and stuff like that, if you remember that. And so he decided really against moving forward into there. Jack's story was one of just great highs and lows, seemingly things he missed. Many people will remember him being the theme tune singer for The Love Boat. He even appeared on The Love Boat as a TV series. But again, he could have had a bigger role. Aaron Spelling loved him, and he got on very well with the producer, Aaron Spelling. What was fascinating was he could have almost become the voice of, you remember Charlie inside Charlie's Angels, which went then to John Forsyth, who then went, of course, to become Blake Carrington in Dynasty. Remember that?
I'm just doing it now.
But of course, Jack carried on touring, making hit albums, and being incredibly successful as an individual singer. He told me really his dream was simply to entertain. He didn't really want anything more. He didn't necessarily like the hullabaloo of Hollywood and wasn't interested in scandal and all that sort of stuff. And he found all of that slightly intrusive. On our very last interview, it was fascinating because we got on well and, he told me so many stories. And at the end of it, he said, I hope you've got enough. We've been running over an hour and a half. I said, I think we have actually. And we laughed and he invited me to dinner. Sadly, on that occasion, I couldn't make it. But, we kept in touch via social media. He developed that skill and thought this was a great way of connecting with fans. Whether you're a fan of Jack Jones or not, you cannot deny he left his indelible mark on the charts and in many people's lives with his smooth, silky voice and his wonderful good persona and, of course, incredible good looks. Either way, Jack Jones will be remembered, as many people might recall, as the King of Smooth. Neil Sean in the very heart of London.